came up, there were these students. There's James, Smiley, Trendon, Adriel, a group of students, and Miss Peggy Carr. They were the ones that helped us out. They helped us. They picked us up at the airport. They took us to places where we could find things that we'd eat. They showed us where we could buy things that we needed, and all of those things. They found apartments for us. They were incredible. So after my first year and getting such, a really good help from this little community that was set up by Peggy. We call her our Taiwan mommy. I decided I was gonna give back. So after that, every year I assisted students that came up. In 2017, because there were talks of an embassy opening, we decided to make the little association that we had. It wasn't like a association, it was just like a group of students that helped out every year and organized themselves. We decided to make it more formal and create an association, and that's how Vita was born. Really and truly, it's the brainchild of Peggy, and we're just the ones that were assisting. And I've done that for 4 years, you could say, because you can't count my first year here. Yeah.
So what did you do? And you and Devon, you all got together to help students. Tell me about that experience and what you did and how you did it.
Okay, so the embassy back home would contact us and tell us, well, X amount of students are coming over. They'll give the contact information to the students, and we'll contact the students and ask them, do you need apartments? What exactly do you need? We can assist you. We'd help organize them. We'd inform them about what to expect when they come to Taiwan and things of that sort. There's actually a handbook written by Peggy that we email to students every year that they'd know, like what the culture is like over here, what the renting culture is like, garbage culture, all of these, little pieces of information that it's just vital. Basically 12 years of information, because Peggy had been doing it for 12 years or so now, and we've just, started doing it maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So we took our advice and everything from Peggy, and when students contacted us, we'd get which language school they would be going to. Then we'd start searching online, and sometimes we would have to rent U-bikes because we just can't find places online. So we'd rent U-bikes, and we'd drive around ride around the area, and they'd have these giant notice boards with where landlords would post the information, etc. And we'd ride around. Mandarin. Yeah, all in Mandarin. We'd ride around looking for these notice boards, and then look on the notice boards to see, get numbers, and then call the landlords and say, oh, we're in the area. We see that on the notice board you have an apartment for rent. Number one, do you rent foreigners? Because a lot of people don't like renting foreigners. They've had bad experiences before. They've heard about bad experiences before. So a lot of people, they don't like it. But some people are really cool. They're like, as long as I'm getting my money, I don't care. You could be a rock. As long as the rock is paying me, I don't care. Yeah.
And so this involved a lot of effort. A lot of effort. And this is not something you're paid for.
No, it wasn't at all. We had to use our little monies that we got from the scholarship every summer to get ourselves to Taipei, because most students wanted to go to Taipei. Take the train, take the bus, rent the bicycles and things of that sort. And then we have to think about what we're gonna eat while we're out on the road and things of that sort.
How has that changed? What happened? You what's the word? You resigned?
Well, after we became a formal association, I was
Which was when?
voted, that was in 2017, I believe. I was voted as the vice president, and um, it just so happened that a lot of people, life happens. People graduated, they got busy, so like it ended up with what the executive was, a little less. And I tell you up front, before, honestly, I feel it was better before we had the formal association, because before it was just a group of students that, if they were available, they'd show up, they'd call, they'd message you, and just make themselves available to help. But then when the association became formal, it's like everybody pushed all of the responsibilities on the executive. From what I understood, the association was made up of all Vincentian students. Once you came to Taiwan, you automatically belong to the association. So it's everybody's responsibility. But when you got, like, when we had the formal executive, it's like everybody decided to sit back and leave it all up to the executive. So you had like more pressure on the executive, and I didn't like the experience, because it's like people expected us to do so much. Yeah, we were supposed to, have get-togethers to encourage like interactions between Vincentians. Yeah, we were supposed to prepare for the new students. Yeah, we were supposed to, all of these things. We made a mission statement that, included all of these things. But because we were students ourselves, it became really difficult to balance. And remember, we didn't have like a formal embassy here, so all of the responsibilities dropped on us to take care of. So for me, being vice president and having to take care of all of these things, and then you had people negatively criticizing you, people actually saying lies about you, because any Vincentian would tell you that's how it is when you're given responsibilities or something. All of a sudden, you have all of these enemies coming out of all of the waterworks and all of that, and I don't know. I just think I need to focus more on myself and my education. And I spent a lot of time trying to help people and all of that. And at one point in time or the other in your life, you have to start focusing more on yourself. So this year was the last year. We had elections, because it's every 2 years. So I was the vice president for 2 years, and then we had elections this year, and people were asking me, oh, can I nominate you again for vice president? Can I nominate you for president? Can I nominate you to be a part of the executive? And I was like, no, I'm tired. If you guys want help, you can call me. I'd always be there to help, to encourage. But I don't want to be at the forefront anymore. It hasn't been a good experience for me. I had to be it's not in my personality to argue with persons. My mom taught me from a young age, when you argue with a fool, they bring you down to their level and beat you with experience. So when persons, come up with arguments to me, I just look at you in the face and not say anything at all. Leave you to argue. So having to be in that forefront and having to, like, people trying to force me into arguing, I think that's taken away from my energy. So I'm just totally done with it.
Let's say the ambassador is to ask for your opinion, your experience, your valued thoughts. What advice would you give to the ambassador on what should apply, what should happen with the Vincentians in Taiwan Association?
I think she should try to assist them as best as possible, especially those summer months where new students are coming up. That's the most important thing. Yeah, having, get-togethers is important for community building, but the inserting of students, and especially I find every year they're getting younger, into a Taiwanese society, it's really important. Because when students, they're coming fresh out of high school, they're coming fresh out of college, they simply don't have the life skills to be so far away from home, because maybe some of them, they've been living with mommy and daddy all the time, and mommy and daddy were taking care of everything for them, and then all of a sudden, you know, you come over to Taiwan where there's basically no parental that's another reason why I was tired. It was because I felt like I myself, I haven't had any children, and I had to act like a mother to some people and tell them you shouldn't do that, like that's wrong, like, and I feel like we're all adults, so you should know your right from wrong. Like, I shouldn't have to tell people you can't do that, you know. But that's the society we live in. People do things that are wrong even though they know they're wrong. And
so how do we
that's
adjust
just-
that? Going back to the ambassador, getting your advice. How can we curb that? How can we deal with that situation where immature students, immature human beings are coming up to from one culture to another, from one part of the world to another part of the world, where a different language exists, where a different culture exists. They don't speak the language, they don't know the culture, they've never left home, some of them have never left that village. How do we put in place, what should we put in place to respond to that?
Counseling is always good. I think maybe the embassy can put together counseling sessions. I mean, this year usually we have people that go home every year, and we'd ask them to, you know, sit down and have a conversation with these students, make them let them understand, like, make them understand different things about Taiwan, the laws over here, the culture over here. And last year I went back home and I facilitated those things, and you still had students saying things like, we never told them about this.
Should there be
Never.
should there be repercussions for students
I
who
think
behave
so.
badly?
I think so. Right now there's no repercussions for students that behave badly, but you have it happening. And Taiwan is so far away. If you get yourself in trouble, it's, you know, it's a challenge. And then you have to think about the fact that you are a representative of your country. And remember, and people say this a lot back home, a reputation is very difficult to build. You build it and you take years building it, and then it can shatter in a matter of seconds. Peggy and the other Vincentian students that have been here over the past 12 years or so, they've made a very good reputation over here. Vincentians are known for excellence in Taiwan. Whether it's school, whether it's apartments, landlords. At first they're skeptical about having us rent, but then when students leave and they come to inspect and they see that their apartment it actually looks better than when they rented it to the person, they're like, well, sure, if somebody's coming next year, come, like, we'd gladly take them for rent. And then you have immature students coming up, and they kind of spoil that for us, you know. I do believe that you should probably put some sort of penalty within the association for that, but I don't think associations work like that.
Should it be done at the ambassadorial level?
I'm not sure.
At the governmental level?
Maybe because the scholarships do have penalties themselves. Schools also have penalties where you, like my last school, if you did something bad, you get a demerit, and you're allowed, say, 100 demerits. And if you get to the point of 100 demerits, say you're living on dorm, they would kick you out. Say you reach past 100 and you're going into the 200 zone, that's warrant for an expulsion, you know. So schools have ways of keeping students in check. Maybe the, you know, embassy, the scholarship, maybe they should have tighter rules for putting students in check. Because before, you know, we didn't really have those sort of problems with Vincentian students, but you find, because the group is getting younger and younger, you find all of these different types of problems coming up, and you would have seen it in other countries but not St. Vincent. But recently you're seeing more and more, you know, problems that